Andrew Warhola was born August 6, 1928, in a two-room shanty in a ghetto of Pittsburgh, to Julia and Andrzej Warhola, who were Carpatho-Russian immigrants from Makova in the Slovak Republic of the former Czechoslovakia. Andy's father, a construction worker, joined other Carpatho-Russian workers who had left the poverty and threatened conscription of their native Makova for jobs in Pittsburgh, where life revolved around the Byzantine Catholic Church. Andy, the youngest of Julia and Andrej's three boys, was baptized in the St. John Chrysostom Byzantine Catholic Church, where the family regularly worshipped. From childhood through his college years, Andy attended the lengthy Byzantine church services. Andy had three nervous breakdowns, called St. Vitus's dance, when he was a child, spaced a year apart, at ages 8, 9, and 10. His father had tuberculosis and was ill and housebound from 1939 until his death in 1942. The two older brothers were away much of the time, which left Andy at home with his mother. From 5th grade on, Andy went to the free Saturday art classes at the Carnegie Museum. Classes at the Carnegie gave Andy his first exposure to traditional art. He was admitted to the Carnegie Institute of Technology at the age of 16, where he enrolled in the Department of Painting and Design. Upon graduation, he moved to New York. Throughout the 1950s and 1960s, Warhol did a variety of commercial art projects and book illustrations. He became a sought-after, successful illustrator of chic fashions. In the early 60s, Andy did his first pop paintings, which soon afterwards catapulted him into fame. At the same time, he expanded his artistic interests to other media. In 1963, he began making films while working on his pop paintings, and in 1966, he began collaborating with the rock music group called the Velvet Underground. In November 1963, Warhol moved all his painting equipment into a loft on East 47th Street that would soon become The Factory. Filled with Warhol's art, music, and constant activity, The Factory attracted artists, college students, celebrities, New York lowlife, and photographers who documented the scene. Warhol's fame turned into notoriety during the later 60s. It was during this period that one of his former film stars, the deranged Valerie Solanas, walked into the factory on June 3, 1968, and fired 3 shots at him at close range. The 1970s were years of extraordinary productivity for Warhol in film, silk-screened works, his magazine Interview, and the writing of his book, The Philosophy of Andy Warhol. In addition, he became sought after as an interior designer who worked with famous architects and clients. Significantly, the decade before Warhol's death began with the creation of his Skull paintings of 1976 and ended with his 1986 series on The Last Supper. In this last decade, he went from the theme of death and dissolution to the theme of redemption. Warhol, previously diagnosed with gallbladder problems, was admitted to a New York hospital following bouts of persistent abdominal pain. Surgery the next day was successful, but his condition deteriorated during the night until he had become blue and had only a feeble pulse. The emergency team could not revive Warhol, who was pronounced dead at 6:30 a.m. on Sunday, February 22, 1987. The Warhola Living Room, 1946-47. One of Warhol's earliest paintings of the family living room shows a crucifix on the mantel above the fireplace. He left out his mother's holy pictures, but he put the cross from Dad's funeral on the fireplace where he always kept it. Thus, Andy's earliest experience of art was of religious art. For Andy, art and religion were linked from a very early age. Mother and Child, 1948. The traumatic experience of his father's illness and death, and his mother's emergency surgery for cancer and her complicated convalescence, along with his own childhood confinement as a result of 3 breakdowns, left Warhol with a pervasive fear of death and disaster. The early drawing of Mother and Child shows an Andy-like child in the tender and protective embrace of his mother. The child clings to her, but looks warily and fearfully at us. Praying Hands, 1950s. In Warhol's early drawing after Albrecht Dürer's Praying Hands, he transformed the aesthetic-looking hands of the German master into supple, sensuous hands of a youth. Untitled, Golden Hand with Creche, 1957. Warhol's beautiful drawing of a hand holding a Christmas creche shows both the fanciful originality of Warhol's imagination and the evidence of his knowledge of art of the past. In this drawing of a golden hand holding the tiny creche within its palm, the Virgin is seated on the ground with the nude Christ child lying across her knees, a type called the Virgin of Humility, which originated in Sienese 14th century art. The drawing is encrusted with commercially confected, gold-embossed decorations used for the halo of the Virgin, the cherub who flutters above, the star, and the leaves in the foreground. The golden hand gently supports its little burden. One recognizes Andy's narrow, long-fingered hand, which curves protectively about the Virgin and Child. The intimacy with which the creche rests within the palm suggests Warhol's long-time familiarity with the theme. Reclining Man, 1956-57. Warhol was open about his homosexuality, and from the early 1950s produced drawings and illustrations that are technically fine and reveal a gay sensibility that ranged from the playful